Nobody warns you until you're already there. Did anyone ever tell you that turning 80 is like waking up in a foreign country where your body doesn't speak the language, your friends have vanished like bad house guests, and your memory is, well, what were we just talking about? They warned you about cholesterol. They warned you about stairs. But nobody warned you that your phone would stop ringing unless it's a spam call, or your pharmacy checking if you're still alive. Life after 80 is strange. You can't tell if you are becoming enlightened or just extremely tired. Some days, you feel like Buddha under the Bodhi tree, calm, still at peace. Other days, you're just stuck on the toilet for 45 minutes trying to remember why you came in. But here's the secret. It's not just decline. It's a stripping away of illusion, of ego, of that weird need to be invited to things you didn't even want to go to anyway. In this video, we're diving into 5 brutally honest and 2 dangerously unspoken realities of life after 80. Not the ones your doctor tells you, the ones your soul whispers at night, the kind that hurt then free you. Stick around, because the bad news, you're aging. The good news, so is your karma. Let's get weird, let's get wise, and let's laugh about the stuff nobody else dares to say out loud. Part 1. You don't lose friends, you outlive them. No one prepares you for the moment you look around your living room and realize the only ones left from your original circle are you. And the couch. You don't lose friends in your 80s the way you used to lose them in your 30s. Back then, it was messy fallouts, drama, or someone moving to Oregon to start over with a rescue dog and a new boyfriend named Shane. But after 80, you don't lose friends. You outlive them. Quietly, repeatedly, until your phone book starts to feel like a graveyard, and the mailman is the only man who still checks in on you regularly. And sure, you still get visitors sometimes. A birthday card, maybe a Facebook message from a grandson you're 90% sure doesn't know your first name. But the rhythm changes. You start measuring relationships by gaps between funerals, not dinner invites. The silence gets heavier, and the weird part is, you adapt to it like a lizard in a terrarium. You start talking to objects. Your coffee mug becomes a therapist. The toaster, Jerry, always burning the toast just like he used to ruin the BBQ ribs at church picnics. But let's be honest, this isn't just funny. It's grief. A slow, ambient kind of grief that no one talks about because it doesn't come with casseroles or sympathy cards. There's no sorry for your loss when you realize the last friend who remembered your childhood nickname has been gone for 5 years. And that's the thing, grief at this age doesn't wear black or make speeches. It sits beside you on the couch and says nothing. It shows up in the second slice of pie you serve no one, or the empty chair you never move just in case someone comes back. So what do you do when your social world shrinks to the size of your living room? You look inward. Buddhism teaches that everything we cling to will eventually change, disappear, or die. And while that sounds like a depressing fortune cookie, there's actually deep freedom in it. Because when you stop expecting the world to be full of people who understand you, you begin to understand yourself. The Sangha, the spiritual community, isn't always flesh and blood. Sometimes it's the memory of a friend who taught you how to forgive. Sometimes it's a prayer you whisper to no one in particular. Sometimes it's just you, your breath, and the sound of wind through the trees. There's also something fierce that grows in that emptiness. Call it self-reliance. Call it spiritual toughness. Call it the result of surviving 8 decades of disappointment and still being kind to the cat. I once met an 87-year-old woman in Idaho who lost her entire friend group within 3 years. One by one, they left cancer, stroke, dementia, the usual suspects. She said, "I used to wake up hoping someone would call. Now, I just talk to the wind. And I swear it listens better than most people ever did." That's not madness. That's wisdom. In elderly psychology, we call this a reorganization of attachment. As external relationships fade, many seniors shift toward symbolic connections, memory, nature, ritual. It's not the end of social life. It's the evolution of it. And you don't have to be alone in it. Even one or two good people, one kind soul who actually listens to your story instead of checking their watch, can become your new village. Because at this stage, you don't need a crowd. You just need a witness. Someone who remembers that once, back in 1962, you were the one who saved the family when the car broke down in the snow, and Uncle Pete was too drunk to drive. Someone who knows you didn't always need help down the stairs. Someone who sees you as more than old. If that person hasn't shown up yet, be it for yourself. Sit with your own stories. Listen to them. Cry for them. Laugh at them. Write them down so someone else won't forget. Because your life isn't fading. It's concentrating. And when your social world shrinks, your soul might finally get a little breathing room. So yes, you've outlived people. That hurts. It's okay to say it. But don't mistake solitude for failure. In the Buddhist sense, aloneness is sacred. It strips away the noise, the roles, the performances, and leaves just you. You, the same wild-hearted, complicated, sarcastic, brilliant person you've always been. And maybe, just maybe, when all the distractions fall away, you'll discover that the best company you've ever had has always been sitting right there at your kitchen table across from a mug of tea and ready to listen. You. Part 2. Your body isn't failing. It's auditioning for performance art. So here's a fun surprise nobody tells you. After 80, your body doesn't break down. Like an old machine, it performs. Dramatically, randomly, loudly. You bend over to pick up a sock and your back sounds like a haunted accordion. You stand up too fast and suddenly you're in a one-man Broadway show called Vertigo the Musical. Your knees snap, your hips pop, and your digestion becomes a suspense thriller. You never quite know when Act 2, the bathroom dash, is about to begin. The medical term for this, aging. The spiritual term, karma, catching up in surround sound. The real issue isn't the aches or even the slowness, it's the betrayal. You trusted this body. You carried kids with it, built houses, climbed stairs without needing a pep talk. And now it's like your body's running on Windows 95 and buffering through simple tasks like brushing your teeth. But here's the wild Buddhist twist: the body was never meant to be reliable. That was our first illusion. The Buddha himself taught that the body is impermanent, fragile, and not self, which sounds like a harsh Yelp review, but it's actually a liberation. Because once you stop expecting your body to perform like it's 30, you can start laughing at its weird little rebellions. That twinge in your hip. That's just your body's way of saying, remember me. That morning stiffness. A reminder to slow down, breathe, and maybe stop trying to do Tai Chi in the driveway, like you're auditioning for the Olympics. Psychologists call this somatic uncertainty, the loss of confidence in your own physical stability. But confidence can return not from fixing the body, but from rebuilding your relationship with it. Talk to it. Respect it. Apologize for all those decades you fed it chili dogs at midnight. This isn't the end of your strength. It's the beginning of your awareness. So stretch gently. Walk slowly. Laugh loudly. And when your ankle clicks like a castanet, just whisper, "Bravo, old friend. You've still got rhythm." Part 3. You're not invisible. You're just spiritually camouflaged. You walk into a room and nothing happens. No heads turn. No, "Hey, you made it." Not even a nod from the teenager glued to their phone. You speak and someone else interrupts, assuming you were done. Or worse, assuming you had nothing important to say in the first place. Welcome to post-80 invisibility. It's not personal. It's just society running on youth-based autopilot, where anyone who doesn't have an Instagram account is automatically downgraded to background character. At first, it stings. Especially if you spent most of your life being respected, listened to, or, at the very least, acknowledged. Now you feel like a ghost with a shopping list. But here's the plot twist: invisibility is also freedom. You can say wildly inappropriate things, and people just nod politely. You can dress however you want: neon socks, oversized hats, pants from 1972, and no one bats an eye. You've become spiritually camouflaged. Not gone, just beneath the radar. Like a wise, elder ninja. In Buddhist thought, ego seeks attention. It wants to be seen, heard, validated. But the true self, it's quiet, grounded, unshaken by applause or neglect. So maybe society's disregard is a backhanded blessing, an invitation to let go of the need to be seen and simply see. One elderly man I met at a cafe told me, "The less people listen to me, the more I hear myself." That's not sadness, that's insight. And let's be honest, some of the people ignoring you are barely conscious anyway. You're not missing out on philosophical depth from the guy who thinks TikTok is a personality. So the next time you feel invisible, remember you're not fading. You're transcending. You've stopped needing the world's spotlight because you've lit your own inner lamp. And when someone finally does sit down and really see you, make them earn it. You've got decades of wisdom. Don't just give that away to anyone who can't spell empathy. Part 4. Your world shrinks, but your inner space gets louder. Remember when your days were packed, commutes, errands, phone calls, social visits, the occasional emergency dental appointment you forgot you made 6 months ago? Now you celebrate making it to the mailbox and back without needing a nap and a chiropractor. Life after 80 becomes quieter, not just in volume, but in geography. Your daily radius shrinks. The mall becomes too loud, the grocery store too far, and even your favorite cafe now feels like it's halfway across the Himalayas. Slowly, the outside world starts to dim, like an old light bulb. But something else happens. Your inner world starts shouting in full surround sound. You sit in your recliner for 10 minutes, and suddenly you're remembering 1963 in vivid technicolor. The time you ran barefoot through summer grass, the smell of your mother's cooking, that one ridiculous argument you had with your brother about whether ducks have teeth. They don't. He was wrong. Elderly psychology calls this life review, a natural process of recollection and meaning-making. But Buddhism sees it as something deeper, the dissolving of ego into awareness. As the outer world falls away, the soul starts whispering, "Hey, remember who you are." There's beauty in that, and chaos, and sometimes both, because when you're not busy doing all that, unresolved being starts floating to the surface like forgotten leftovers in the back of the fridge. But don't panic. This is the part of the path where monks go into caves. You've got a couch, a window, and a memory that still works well enough to find your way back to your favorite regrets. The secret isn't to resist the shrinking, it's to expand inside it. Start a journal. Talk to your plants. Write letters to people who've passed. Let your inner space be cathedral-sized, because even if your world feels smaller, your soul, it's got square footage you haven't explored in decades. Part 5. Your body will betray you, and you'll forgive it anyway. There comes a point, usually somewhere between your 14th mysterious bruise and your 3rd unplanned nap of the day, when you realize your body has quietly formed its own rebellion. One day, you're standing up just fine. The next, your hip locks like a rusty gate, and your legs stage a protest called, "Not today, pal." You drop your fork not because your grip failed, but because your fingers decided to ghost you. And don't even get me started on the bladder. That traitor quit the union years ago and now operates on freelance chaos. But here's what makes it truly maddening. It's not predictable. You can feel amazing on Tuesday, then wake up Wednesday shaped like a question mark. It's not aging, it's improv theater. And you're always the understudy. Now, elderly psychology calls this physiological unpredictability. I call it body gaslighting. Because you keep asking, "Didn't we used to do stairs?" and your knees just go, "Never heard of her." But here's the Buddhist reframe. The body was always temporary. You just didn't notice when it worked. Now that it complains constantly, you're finally paying attention. Welcome to Mindfulness Involuntary Edition. This is your spiritual boot camp in letting go. Attachment to youth, to performance, to control it all dissolves here. Every stiff joint becomes a Zen bell. Every stumble a reminder. Ah, yes, impermanence. And despite all this nonsense, you don't hate your body. You stretch it. You rub it. You coax it out of bed with warm tea and whisper, "Let's try again." That's not just survival. That's compassion. That's forgiveness in motion. Because even when your body stops playing nice, you remember all the years it carried you, danced with you, fell in love, broke bones, healed them, bore children, climbed hills, buried friends. So no, you won't divorce your knees. You'll just walk a little slower beside them, like an old couple learning to love again, awkwardly, but still together. Part 6. Regret is the ghost that starts moving in around 2 a.m. There's a specific hour, usually sometime between the third bathroom trip and the creaking of your neighbor's cat, that regret slips in like a bad tenant. Not loud, just present. You lie there staring at the ceiling fan like it has answers while your brain loads up memories from 1974. That time I didn't say, "I love you," before they left. That argument with my sister over the will. That job I should have quit. That child I should have hugged more and lectured less. You didn't invite these thoughts. They show up anyway, like ghosts who forgot how to knock. Regret in old age isn't loud like grief. It's soft. It wears slippers. It sits in your favorite chair and asks, "So, what would you do differently?" And the worst part, it knows you can't go back. Psychologists call this late life rumination. Buddhists call it karma, showing up with receipts. I call it emotional indigestion, where your past decisions reheat themselves like bad leftovers. But here's the joke: the ego doesn't want you to get regret. It's just attachment dressed up in yesterday's clothes. You're clinging to versions of yourself that no longer exist. You can't rewrite the story, but you can change the narrator. What if you forgave yourself, not because you deserve it, but because someone has to? 184-year-old man told me I made peace with my worst mistakes when I realized they weren't who I am. Just places I visited too long. That's not therapy. That's enlightenment. And if you really want a spiritual jolt, call the person. Write the letter. Or simply say, "I messed that up, but I'm still learning." Because regret doesn't get smaller with time. It gets quieter when met with truth. So the next time regret tries to sneak into your bedroom at 2 a.m., roll over and say, "I hear you, but I'm not building a shrine to you." Then fluff your pillow and go back to sleep. Part 7. Everyone talks about dying, but no one talks about being bored to death. Let's get honest. Most people fear death, but if you're over 80, you've likely realized something more immediate. Death is actually not the worst part. The boredom is. And I'm not talking about mild boredom. I'm talking about the kind where you spend half an hour staring at a banana, wondering if it's ripe, or if you're just procrastinating on the concept of existence. The world slows down after 80. Your schedule clears. People stop asking you to do things. Even your own joints vote against adventure. So, what's left? Conversations about medications. Weather, oatmeal. Repeat until you beg for a surprise appendectomy just to feel something. Elderly boredom isn't just annoying. Psychologists say it's tied to loss of stimulation identity and relevance. But Buddhists, they see this boredom as the gateway to enlightenment. Yep, that's the spiritual twist. In monasteries, boredom is the goal. Sit, breathe. Watch the same thought march by like a bad parade. Eventually, the ego throws a tantrum and then disappears. But you didn't sign up for this ashram. You just retired. So now you're stuck in the existential waiting room flipping through the mental magazine rack past mistakes weekly. Random aches digest. The future who cares. And yet, within the boredom there's an opening. A tiny crack in the usual noise where stillness lives. Where the mind gets quiet enough to hear something more honest than the news. I met a 91-year-old man who said, "I used to dread the empty days. Now I light a candle and pretend I'm a monk. Then I fall asleep. But still it's nice. So don't fear the boredom. Don't rush to fill it with noise. Let it hum. Let it scrape at the walls of your old identities. And maybe, just maybe, let it reveal what's left when the story pauses." Spoiler alert. What's left is peace. and possibly oatmeal. So here we are, 7 uncomfortable, unfiltered, sometimes hilarious truths about life after 80. You didn't just lose friends, you outlived them. Your body didn't just slow down, it turned into abstract performance art. You didn't become invisible, you just leveled up to spiritual stealth mode. Your world shrank, but your inner life, it started yelling poems at the furniture. You forgave your own body, not because it deserved it, but because, well, you both needed a truce. You met regret at 2 a.m. and finally said, "You're not the boss of me." And boredom turns out it was your spiritual teacher in a beige sweater. If you've made it this far, know this: you are not declining. You are distilling. What remains now is only the essential grief wisdom memory and weird dreams about birds that might be metaphors. Buddhism teaches that the last illusion we release is the idea of control. And in these final chapters, you're not unraveling. You're softening. You're dissolving the need to be seen, needed, or even remembered. Because finally, you see yourself. So speak your truth. Tell your stories. Laugh at the absurdity. And don't let anyone tell you that aging is just about survival. It's about awakening one creaky joint, one lost friend, one strange miracle at a time. You're not fading. You're becoming light,